Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking your seats. First of all, welcome to the pool for any of you who've never been here before, and welcome back to everybody else who's been here plenty of times to see a lot of familiar faces. It's the pool's third birthday. So, can you believe it? And this is the second Marbella 2.0 event that we're doing, so thank you all very much for being here. Before I get started, I want to let everybody know who's parked in the underground parking that we've managed to get the extension until 10 p.m. So make sure that your car is removed by then, please. Otherwise, you'll probably be walking home. I'm going to introduce to you the host of tonight's event. This person is what I believe embodies Marbella 2.0. This gentleman here has been with the pool since pretty much the opening. He's pretty much part of the furniture now. But no, on a more serious note, he's incredible. Razor Suleman is the unicorn founder of a Sequoia-backed Achievers, which he successfully exited in 2015. He's also the co-founder and the CEO of Elevate Forum, the global private members network for purpose-driven founders, CEOs, investors, and leaders operating at scale, which was created right here in Marbella, in partnership with the pool. As a proud Canadian, Razor traded snow for sunshine 5 years ago when he moved down to Marbella with his soulmate Carrie and their 2 kids. And according to him, they're never leaving. So if you all help me with a big round of applause to welcome up Razor.
Hey. Okay, welcome everyone this evening to Marbella 2.0, right? Are we excited? Right? Look at this crowd. This is amazing. I love it. I love being able to share my story and the future we all have or believe in with Marbella 2.0. So as Liz mentioned, my soulmate and I, Carrie, came here about 5 years ago. It was the pandemic. Remember the pandemic? And we're like, let's escape. We had never been to this place that I then called Marbella, okay, which I was quickly corrected. And we thought, you know what? It has great international schools. It has 300 plus days of sunshine. And, you know, we'll escape for a year and then we'll go back to the city when it's done. Well, lo and behold, many people had the same idea. You know, many people from around the world who could have chosen to go anywhere chose to come here. And they had 2 things in mind when they made that choice. One, they wanted a place that would optimize for their lifestyle. Healthy place where they could be active, great schools that they could send their kids to. Our kids go to Swans just right here. And but they also wanted to reinvent themselves, their next chapter, maybe start their next company. Investors built their next fund. And I think that's what's really special about what's happening in Marbella over the last few years, is that when you put those like-minded people together that have done extraordinary things into one room, you create this incredible community, which I believe is the most ambitious international community in all of Europe. We have it all here in Marbella and Marbella 2.0. So thank you for being a part of this movement, right? Okay, now I have the privilege of introducing a gentleman that needs no introduction. Christian is the co-founder and CEO of the pool. But before he comes on stage, I need to give you a warning. Okay, I need to give you a warning about Christian. It was about 3 years ago, and Christian and I do like a regular walk and talk. We go along the Paseo first thing in the morning, and no real fixed agenda, just whatever's on our minds. And I remember one morning about a few years ago, I asked Christian, I'm like, Christian, are there any like global peer communities like YPO, some of you may have heard of, the Young Presidents Organization? And he immediately said, no. But why don't we start one? And I'm like, yeah, why don't we start one? Now listen, I'm an enterprise software guy. I have no idea what it takes to build a global community. But together we're brainstorming, and he's like, Razor, you have no idea of how many exited founders, investors, executives are here in Marbella looking for exactly the same thing. I bet if we collaborated, we could create this. And so we did. We launched our first global retreat where we invited 50 founders, investors, executives, half from North America who flew here and half from Europe, and we had a magical 3 days in Marbella. We launched the Marbella chapter, which then launched the London chapter, the Toronto chapter, and the New York chapter, all right here from Marbella. And the reason that I'm warning you is that a night like tonight, when you have such ambitious, creative people next to you, your next co-founder could be sitting right next to you. You know, the person who's going to invest maybe in your next startup or project could be right next to you, right? Your team could be right here in this room. And so my only warning is, nights like tonight tend to inspire big ideas, and nobody does that better than our fearless CEO, Christian. Come on stage, Christian.
Hi, everyone. Is this working? Yeah, you can hear me? Yep. Wow, that's bright. I think that's one thing I can take off my bucket list, to be welcomed to the stage by Razor Suleman. Let's put our hands together for Razor again. He's done an amazing job. I can say that the pool would not be what it is without his input, that's for sure. I know that Liz told you already, but I think it's worth celebrating. A concept like Marbella 2.0, but especially the Pool Marbella. I still remember, Martin is right over here, the first call that I had from Martin when we were considering starting the pool. I was like, hey, Christian, let's set up a tech hub in Marbella. And I was like, no, a tech, you mean Malaga? No, Marbella, for real, and it works. The first thing I did was meet these guys, and the profile of people we started meeting was just amazing. So yeah. 3 years. Guys, the pool is 3 years, and we've been able to create that in Marbella. That deserves an applause, I gotta say. Truth is that it's something that just happened, and I think we've got an amazing group of people that we managed to put together. There's so many people that I'd like to thank for this to be the 3rd year. But I think I'll start with obviously the co-founders who entrusted me the role to execute this idea. Martin is here. Thank you, Martin. Martin is the soul behind the Marbella Tech meetups that we launched, with our incredible resources at the time, just with the Tech Meetups app, and and that's how we started. And I think the people that need to suffer me every day, my team, Liz, Artem, Nata, Vicky, I think Sarah's still here, Dakota. I'm not missing anybody. I think we got them all. Yeah. And there's another person that I really need to thank, that I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does and what he means. Alfredo, where are you, Alfredo? There you are. Yeah, he's got his throne sitting right there, Alfredo. He's my brainstorming friend to talk to. But okay, let's try to stay on topic. When Razor said I'm dangerous, I think he meant that I tend to disperse quite a lot. So let's try to stay on topic. We're here to talk about Marbella 2.0. Marbella 2.0 is basically a movement to position, Artem? To position the Costa del Sol, obviously Marbella, but its role within the Costa del Sol, highlighting that amazing ecosystem that it has. So obviously, that is my version of it. You got the fancy option right there. And the areas that we work on are basically the ones that you see here. Infrastructure and growth, education, culture, we got health and well-being, and the business ecosystem. Business ecosystem is the seed by which all this happened, right? We saw that we've got this amazing talent. There was a pool of talent that was, interesting to dip into. So that's where the name comes from. in order to not be so dispersed, I'm using these. I think they freak me out more than anything else, but I'm going to try to... My team keeps saying that I talk too much, so I'll try to stick to the notes. But when we talk about the business ecosystem, I've been here for 40 years. This is what I call home. And we've always had this myth, right? We're talking about Malaga. Malaga, where the corporates are. So you've got the DECRA, the Vodafone, you've got Accenture, NVIDIA's doing the project with Accenture, you've got Google, you've got the IMEC. So all that's, I think, the success is tangible. But when you talk about Marbella, everybody says, yeah, the money is in Marbella. The investors are in Marbella. Okay, sounds great. Where's the data behind that? Where are the numbers? So, we don't like to leave loose ends. We like to work on things. So one of the things that we did is like, okay, let's put some numbers into it. So I created something so incredibly sophisticated as a survey. And I want to share the results with you. So, Artem, if you don't mind. There we go. So some of the data that I'm excited to share, even when I was revising the data that I was getting, I was like, wow, just with the little, the community that we are, the numbers were quite spectacular. So, I mean, just having investors from 20 different countries, I mean, that is already quite impressive. And once again, we're not even talking about the entire ecosystem of Marbella. We're talking about our ecosystem. This is the pool, the Marbella 2.0 ecosystem. So later down the line, and I know Artem's probably going to kill me for doing this, but we're going to be sharing a QR code. I don't know if you want to do it now. Yeah. So I know it's very nice to come here, share some experience all together, but I'm probably you're gonna leave with some homework. So at some point, whenever you can, this QR code is gonna come up on the screen a couple of times. So what I want to do is, I would love if you're an investor or you know an investor, once again, who's related to Marbella, to the Costa del Sol, please get them to fill out the survey so we can increase the numbers and we can have more data. Although the data that we have is already quite validated and interesting. So Artem, sorry for that, but if you don't mind, let's go back. There we go. So okay, so one piece of data that I'm excited about is obviously we do have a very strong Scandinavian community, as you can probably see from the first and the third row. But we've got interesting Spanish community of investors as well. So I'm excited about that. And then we've got the breakdown. And a detail that I was impressed with here is that we got 22% of people who filled out the survey are family offices. Got 39% angel investors and so forth. So, but the big numbers are on the top. If we think that in our ecosystem, in the little survey that we've done, we've got over 2,000 investment in companies. Guys, that's quite impressive. Then if you think that the people that we did the survey with, 3,250 employees, 548 of them in Spain. I think that's quite something. And then if you look at the amount of capital raised for that company, we're over 1 billion euros in that little survey that we did. Imagine if we extended more. So doesn't this position Marbella in a different way? Doesn't it? I think it does. Artem, next. Some more data I want to share. So for you who are investors or you're a startup looking for investment, I think this data will be quite interesting. What caught my eye and went again a little bit of the thing that I would have thought is that the biggest amount is on seed and pre-seed. That's something I didn't think. I think people here in Marbella invested more on more established companies, but I'm very excited to see that. And I would also highlight the fact that it's not the small tickets. It's not the small tickets of under 50K. We look at the tickets between 50, 250, and from 250 to 1 million euros. So I think, once again, that's data that I think quite a lot of people would have liked to know. Artem. Then, what do they invest in? So, tech and SaaS, to be honest, I did see that one coming, let's be honest. I did see that one, but what surprised me here, only 36% of them invest in real estate. I thought that was going to be a lot higher. So that's another surprise that I got. Then, medtech. I think we've got some people here who are interested in the medtech industry. Yeah. In the back, yeah. And hospitality, edtech, proptech, and so forth. Then, funny thing is that where do they invest? 58% invest mainly Europe, only 17% globally, and mostly Spain, 25%. So I think that goes a little bit against what a lot of people think is like, oh no, but in Marbella, there aren't many people who actually invest in local companies. The data doesn't really say the same. So I think that's worth keeping in mind. And obviously, this is a little bit biased by me. So obviously, one of the questions was, would you invest in local companies? Well, turns out that 59% would. 33% already are, and only 8% said no. So once again, it's all about finding the right opportunities. Martin? So, that is the brief conclusions of the investor map that we did. I've got some more data, but I think we'll be sharing that slowly, and I want to increase it. So I think I'm very proud of those numbers. I think we've finally got some data that we can start working with. Now, I think I said it from the beginning, this is a movement that we can't do alone. We need help. That's why the QR code and the homework and all these things, right? But one thing to consider, and I love there's an example of how entities can work together. I'm going to show you a video in a couple of seconds, but it's an initiative called Silkbridge. It's an initiative that's been supported by the town hall, and it's basically to create a bridge and a platform by which companies and funds from China, Middle East, and Europe can meet, and we can bridge that current gap that's there. So that's it from my side. I'm going to leave you with the video, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Marbella 2.0 is a vision, but a vision needs proof. In April 2026, Silkbridge took that vision to China to test it, to sit across the table from China's most serious investors. In Hefei, we met the people behind USTC Silicon Valley, 13 innovation centers across the globe, backed by Anhui provincial government, China. Spain trade crossed $55 billion last year. The appetite was there. What was missing was a credible bridge. On April 21st, we signed a strategic cooperation framework agreement, a binding commitment to build it together. In Hangzhou, at the 10th All Blossom Conference, the mayor of Marbella took the main stage. From that stage, she formally launched Marbella 2.0 strategy, repositioning Marbella as the strategic gateway between China, the EU, the Gulf, and Latin America, and she announced the first Silkbridge Capital Summit. Over 9 days, we met the companies: medical robotics, precision agriculture, smart manufacturing. The same question came up, again and again. What does it take to enter Europe through Marbella? That is how a pipeline begins. We went to China with a hypothesis. We came back with a verdict. The technology is real. Capital is serious. The companies are ready. And Hangzhou city government publicly endorsed the summit from the All Blossom stage. China's institutions moved first. When that happens, something real is happening. June 11th and 12th. Marbella, the Silkbridge Capital Summit, co-hosted by Marbella City Hall. The summit opens the door. The Silkbridge Accelerator keeps it open. A permanent base in Marbella, Chinese companies entering Europe. accessing capital, and scaling into the EU, Latin America, and the Gulf.
Amazing, right? How great is that? Marbella 2.0 is not just a local movement, it is in China. It is a global movement, right? Okay, so today we're here to talk about the future of education, one of the key pillars of our Marbella 2.0 strategy, and I have three incredible educators here today to share their insights and knowledge. But I wanted to share a story of how I started thinking about education specifically for our kids. You know, it was about 10 years ago. Carrie and I are in San Francisco. We have a 3-month-old baby, and I remember meeting with a fellow founder, and they're like, "Oh, congratulations on, your new son." And you're like, "Have you thought about schools?" And I'm like, "No, he's like 90 days old. Like this is an MVP. Like, no, he's not ready." He's like, "Oh. In San Francisco, private schools are really hard to get into. You should have started last year when your wife was pregnant." And I'm like, wow, I'm such an underachiever. And so we start meeting with schools, and we learn three things about them. One, they're underwhelming and they look like prisons, number one. Number two, tuition for kindergarten in a U.S. San Francisco private school starts at $60,000 a year. I'm like, $60K? No way, that's crazy. But the third thing that got me was this concept called active shooter drills. Just by a show of hands, who knows what an active shooter drill is? Okay, a couple Americans in the audience, you know what it is. Okay, so apparently we all know that mass shootings are a problem in the US. There are more guns than there are Americans. And so what they do is they teach kids, little kindergarten kids, that when someone comes in with an AK-15, you have to hide under the desk. That's their strategy. And I'm like, we're done. We left San Francisco within 30 days. We went back to Toronto, Canada, and we thought about education there. Good news, we are in Marbella. Our kids go to Swans. We love it. They have no active shooter drills, and it's about 80% less expensive. And I think at least 2 or 3 times as good. So let's hear a little bit more from the pros that are leading the charge in Marbella on the future of education. I am pleased to welcome Tracie Thomas to the stage. She is the head mistress of the British International School of Marbella. Tracie, come join us. Welcome, thank you. Okay, we have Beata Fröhlich. She's the dean at the Marbella International University Center. Beata, come join us on stage. And we have Mano Soler. He is the director of Roches Marbella. Come join us on stage, Mano. Okay. Okay, Tracie, let's start with you. We're going to go this way. I'll ask each of our panelists a few questions, okay? So, Tracie, tell me a little bit about the British International School, the profile of your students, the areas of focus.
Okay, so our school opened in 2010. We initially were quite a small school in a small campus and then ended up growing very, very quickly. So we now have a beautiful purpose-built campus in Nogales. And since we've moved there, which is just over 5 years ago now, we've actually expanded further and have a second purpose-built campus for our early years students. We have students in our school from pre-nursery, so 2-year-olds, all the way through to post-16, pre-university, and we prepare them all the way through their education to take their next steps into further education, of course, moving on to the careers or vocational opportunities that they want to do. We follow the English national curriculum and deliver all our core subjects, but we also have quite a unique and stylized curriculum that we've been developing over time that I think does make us stand out quite considerably in this area. And that is that we provide choice and options for students so that they can actually take and have a say in what they would like to do and choose their learning paths. Not only is this something that helps them to develop a sense of decision-making, problem solving at times, understanding more about themselves, learning what they're good at, where their passions lie, what they're not so good at and what they're not so interested in as well. But it also adds a much more breadth and depth to what they're learning. It prepares them then when we move into our GCSE phases, then of course delivering the A-level as well, so the gold standard of then moving into universities. It allows them to make sure that they know what they want to do, where they want to go, and have a real good idea of what they want to study so they can succeed at the highest possible level. Obviously, academic achievement is very important, and we are very much about pushing our students, really pushing them to see what they can do beyond what they perceive within themselves. And in order to do that, we feel it's really important to have a program that supports their personal development as well. So we make sure that within our school, we have timetabled sessions whereby they get to meet one-on-one with a mentor, talk about what's working well for them, what they need to do, how they can improve, what changes they might need to make. We make sure that they have opportunities to come together as a community, learn from one another, share ideas, best practice, and so on. And that might involve, having a family-style shared lunch, for example, something as simple as that. We also make sure that we have lots of opportunity embedded within our program, particularly for our post-16 students, where we really look at careers enrichment opportunities for them. So we work very closely actually with the pool of talents. We make sure that students have access to keynote speakers, industry insights. They go to visit different places, Google HQ, for example, and they really get to learn an awful lot from that and have the experience of networking and just learning those soft life skills that are so important moving forward beyond just the academic processes as well. Within our school, we truly are an international school. We have more than 50 different nationalities. So again, they're learning a lot constantly from one another in that sense as well. And it's really nice to see the diversity in the community that brings within our school. We offer a Mandarin program, which is something quite unique as well, I believe, into our setting. And this is something that quite a few students get the opportunity to sample, to taste, to not just learn the language, but also to understand the culture within our school.
Wow, that's pretty amazing, right? I'm like, maybe I should go to the British International School, and so I could sound like Tracey, right? Proper British English, Reza, right? That was so great. Okay. So what an incredible start. Now tell me about the growth of the school. What was it like at the beginning? How has it grown over the year? And what does demand look like right now if someone wanted to go to the British International School?
Okay, so as I mentioned, initially we were a small school, small campus, and it became very obvious very quickly that we needed to grow, we needed to expand. I think if you're a good school, it attracts that demand, it really does sell itself in that sense. And so we have grown quite substantially, particularly post-COVID. We saw a big influx of families coming to the area, wanting the provision that we could provide, the education that we could provide. And so our school has grown considerably. So going from a very small campus, as I said, we now have 2 campuses, more than 650 students within our school as well.
Amazing. And so tell me about, so you start in your early years and all the way through year 13. What happens to the students after they graduate? Do they tend to stay in Marbella? Do they go away? What's their path after British International School?
So our students have taken places in many universities around the world, across Europe, in the US, within the UK as well. Some do stay here in Spain. Some students, before they've taken up their university placements, have taken deferred years. Some of them have used that to travel the world a little bit, gain some life experience. Others have stayed more locally during that time, but again, still utilizing it to gain life experience, network, meet people, and just understand the world a little bit better. But ultimately, they have many, many options and have been successful in accessing universities worldwide.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Big round of applause. Thank you. Okay, Beata, tell us about the Marbella International University Center, the size of the school, the focus, and a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Beata Fröhlich. I'm a dean of Marbella International University Center, which has campus in Marbella, one of the most international cities in Spain, if not in Europe. We do offer British degrees from London here in Marbella. We teach in English. We focus on personalized learning. I do know all my students by name. Our awarding body is University of London. So should students wish to, they could go for a semester to London. And having said that, all of who went returned, right? So I think it's a good feedback for us. And also we are, if you look into our students, they are mainly international. Our Marbella International University Center is 12 years old, and during those years we had students from over 97 different nationalities, right, if we count students and staff. So it's truly international. And if you look into our faculty, depending on the program, they are 80 to 100% PhDs, meaning we do know how to do research. And also we are authorized by Spanish local government, Junta de Andalucía, so which I think is like a great achievement.
Amazing. So you run a wonderful university right here in Marbella. Give us a sense, is there room for others to come? What do you think it would take for Marbella to become an international destination for top-tier university students looking?
Okay, so what does it take? I think it takes public perception to change. And I think to change that public perception, it's really costly and it does take time, meaning position of Marbella because we don't want to be known as a tourist destination, if you will, right? I think that has changed. However, still we have to do some collective work on it. So we are renowned Marbella as a city itself, not a tourist destination. However, the main reason to come here, in our case, should be to study, work, and yes, it does happen that Marbella is in an environment or location which is good for student well-being, which is reflecting on their academic performance as well. So I think first what has to change is people perception of Marbella, right? Because you do see that in the area you have more international schools opening and they are operating at full capacity. So it's already a sign that it's changing, right? Also what has to change, I think, are collective efforts, meaning I do believe there should be more universities in Marbella. If we don't work together, I think this change will be very slow. So more universities working together. Also, I believe there should be a I call it triangle, so more universities working together and actually doing research, more businesses, not only relocating here after COVID, but more businesses created actually here, right? And this cooperation between universities, right? And when I say universities, I don't mean I'm representing private university. However, I don't mean private only. I think there should be cooperation between public and private, because to have this exchange of knowledge, because some people say, well, it's competition. Well, I see competition is a good thing, right? So there should be more universities. Then also businesses that actually, let's say, they are being created here. So there's a next step for students that actually would tell them to stay here, right? And also another important point, I think, it's a public sector. What do I mean by that? There should be it's a heavily regulated sector. So I think there should be a public, if you're looking into legislation, if you look into taxation, I believe there should be more support for the education sector in Marbella. And then if you join all that together, businesses being created here, universities doing research, and then support of public authorities, I think we can create that triangle and that change so that one day, hopefully, Marbella will be known as an educational hub.
I love that. I love that your focus was around, let's bring another great university to Marbella. You know, some people, again, might think of it as competition, but I think the spirit of Marbella 2.0 is about collaboration, right? When you look at maybe other places, you know, in London, you've got Oxford and you've got Cambridge, you know, in Boston, where my wife and I went to school, you've got Harvard and you've got MIT, and it's a collaboration of two great universities that actually puts it on the radar of people. So I loved hearing you say that, and I strongly agree. My last question to you is, what have you seen as a trend, you know, maybe a pre-COVID world, post-COVID world, what have you seen in terms of enrollment and demand at Marbella International University Center?
Yeah, so we are a small university, so we have about 200 students, right? To say, because we do offer personalized learning, right? Tutoring, personalized attention. What we've seen a change in demographics. If pre-COVID we had many students, coming from Gulf countries, what we do see in current years, we do see significantly more students coming from European countries, from Europe, in particular Sweden, and also, interestingly, for the past 2 years, we have, I think, our dominant student body, nationality, if you will, is actually North Americans. So we did see a significant increase in North American students.
Nice. There are Swedens in Spain, Swedish people? I didn't notice. I do love that more North Americans are coming. In terms of my trends, I honestly, I'm probably doing a call a week now of people that sort of, you know, maybe grew up there and want sort of a European lifestyle. So I'm also noticing that as well, too. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Beata. Mano, you ready? Okay.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about La Roche and the types of students you guys tend to attract.
Well, first of all, congratulations to the pool on the 3.0, and it's really special to be here for Christian. Christian is actually a La Roche alumni, so that's also a beautiful story for us. So, and we're very proud of him. So
that's it. Just drop the mic. You don't need to say any more.
That's all I need to say, you know. So if a La Roche student creates the pool, then that's what we do, you know. No, but it's a true pleasure. And the last thing I'll add to this intro is, Razor, you need to start thinking about sending your kids to university. So come and see us. Yeah, keep that in mind. Well, La Roche actually is a Swiss hospitality school. It started in the Swiss Alps. We have our let's say, our main campus in Crans-Montana in Switzerland. But if I talk particularly about Marbella campus, we've celebrated 30 years last year here in Marbella. For those of you that don't know, La Roche actually started at the Pier Hotel, which is currently the Occidental Hotel. In the basement, there were only about 30 students back then in 1995. And fast forward to today, we are currently in a different campus in the Carretera di Stan, where we have a student body of over 1,100 students per semester. So actually, we've grown incredibly. But as I mentioned, La Roche Marbella is part of La Roche as a brand. We have Crans-Montana, as I said earlier, Marbella. We recently opened La Roche in Abu Dhabi. And we're opening La Roche in Riyadh. It was supposed to be September, but for obvious reasons, we're pushing it to January. La Roche was traditionally created for hospitality, to serve the industry of hospitality, and mainly hotels. No? So traditionally, hospitality schools in Switzerland. And about 30 years ago, there were some businessmen in Marbella that decided and saw the potential of Marbella being an international tourism luxury destination. And they said, well, I think a destination like Marbella should have a university. And they went scouting and they finally found La Roche, and that was what they brought here. And today, well, as I said, a large community. We're definitely international. We only have 23% of our enrollment is Spanish. The other 80% is international, representing over 93, 95 different nationalities that come to our school. We offer a bachelor in science. It used to be a bachelor in business. We offer master degrees, postgrad degrees, and diploma degrees, and even executive training. But it's mainly focused in hospitality, okay? But the beautiful thing about La Roche is that our growth was actually with the industry, not for the industry. I like to say that La Roche used to be traditionally a talent supplier. You know, the companies would come and see us. And today, I believe we are part of the conversation in shaping what the future of the industry is looking like. And in that sense, that is why we have the portfolio of programs that we have. Obviously, hospitality and hotels is given, but we've let's say, diversified our portfolio. Currently, we are serving luxury cruise lines, private aviation, luxury marketing, self-leadership, and the latest Bachelor in Science that we've started already in September is a Bachelor in Sports Business Management, because we've seen that the trend in terms of sports business is all related to hospitality. And we came up with that program not necessarily because we did the research on it, but there was also a natural trend of our alumni that were starting to be hired in the industry of sports. So we currently have students that are, serving in the Olympic Committee and FIFA and UEFA and all these other different sport-related businesses. So that's kind of how we diversified in terms of our portfolio of what we offer. Very large network of representation. We are represented in 150 different countries. That is our network of sales. And Le Roches Marbella in our ecosystem has become the campus that has most grown in terms of number of students, which is good news for that. And I always like to say this, Marbella in our ecosystem, we always had to compete with Switzerland. And I'll put it in a very simple example. If you're speaking to a wealthy person, I don't know, in China, and they're having a dinner, and they say, where are you sending your kids for school? I'm sending my kids to a boarding school in Switzerland. It's a lot nicer than saying I'm sending my son to Marbella. No, it's to study or for vacation. So in that sense, we had to really work on our reputation, on the quality of education that we give, because Marbella, of course, it's party and sun and having fun, but we also need to have a very serious program. And I think we were able to deliver that because one of the uniquenesses of Le Roche is the Swissness. And Swissness, discipline, being on time, rigor, etc., is very present in Switzerland. But in Marbella, we had to be double Swiss, no? So hence, our standards on campus had to be really, up to those standards to compete with Switzerland. So that's kind of where we are. I can talk all day about Le Roche. I'm a graduate as well. I was almost at the same time as Christian at Le Roche. I studied back in 1999, and again, we were 90 students in campus, and today it's amazing to see that we're over 1,000.
Amazing. I think my wife wants me to go to Le Roche because I am never on time for anything. So I'm sure I could learn that.
We'll sign you up for an executive program.
Never.
Nice.
Never. Okay. So talk to me. 30 years ago they had a vision. They opened up the Marbella school. It's been growing. Why now do you think more than ever that Marbella is the right place for Le Roche? For those of you who don't know, Le Roche has been ranked the second highest hospitality school in the world, right?
Absolutely,
We're talking world class.
Which sometimes is hard to swallow, to think about it, but yes, we're number 2 worldwide.
Right, that's incredible.
It's and just to clarify, it's not because we have a beautiful campus and beautiful students and beautiful teachers. One of the KPIs there is what the industry thinks of an outcome. So, what our employers are thinking about students that come out from our school.
Great. So why Marbella now? Why more than ever is this a place for world-class hospitality to continue to thrive at Le Roche?
Well, if you look at where top hospitality schools are around the world, you have Lausanne, you have Glion in Montreux, you have Le Roche, obviously, in Crans-Montana. We are placed in luxury hospitality settings. And why Marbella for us is important, and this is what I was saying on how we didn't grow as a school, but we grew with the industry, in particular in Marbella. For us, Marbella is actually a living lab of what we are teaching. It's the best place to understand luxury. It's the best place to understand customer experience, exigent customers, latest trends in hospitality, obviously the tech side and innovation in that sense. So that's why we believe Marbella is that destination. We've seen that in the growth of our students and reaching all these 90 different nationalities of people starting to bring their children to study with us as a destination. Marbella has that reputation. So it's definitely for us the great place to do so. And if I talk about the different portfolios of programs that we have, Marbella has it all in that sense. I talked about our marketing program in luxury retail. You have all the luxury retail brands that are here. I talked about luxury cruise lines. Recently, the Four Seasons yacht was launched from Malaga, and we work closely with them as well, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely the place to be, international. It's safe. We do not have the active shooter drills, although it is in our protocols just in case because of our accreditation and so on. No, but it's very attractive to come and study here. Yeah.
I got it. Okay, so we have world-class hospitality school in Marbella. Do you think there's room in the market for another sort of world-class university, but maybe in a different area? What area would you say that would be?
I agree with Beata that the more, the better, and the merrier. But I must be also quite honest in terms of how much can Marbella take, no? If we're thinking Marbella to become a Granada, a university city, I don't think we have that here. First of all, because there's little space. I think there's issues with infrastructure. We currently, with 1,000 students that we have, we house 600 of those students, and we're missing accommodation for 400 students, which is becoming increasingly more difficult. So, I think those are things that you definitely need to take into consideration if Marbella is going to grow as a destination for university. The second thing is, I think Marbella is a destination for niche universities, because I don't think you could have generalist universities here. You don't have that ecosystem yet for that sense. But if you talk about niche education, it definitely is there. And if you especially talk about niche education in terms of luxury business, obviously luxury hospitality and so on, I think it's the right place. But having said that, we must not forget what Malaga can offer. No. So I truly believe that there is an opportunity for the Costa del Sol between Malaga being one of those hubs for universities, generalist universities, private universities, which, by the way, Malaga is big on new universities coming up now. So, we must not forget that the ecosystem is not just here. But again, for me, it's more niche education. And then you have Malaga as a hub, especially for tech and so on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your comments. Okay, so that includes our panel. There is a QR code coming up where you can learn more about each of our speakers. They will also be around afterwards if you want to continue the conversation and learn more. Maybe we all sort of get together and bring another world-class university to Marbella. Again, anything can happen at things like this. Thank you so much to our panelists.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Marbella already has the lifestyle, the schools, the talent. Now, let's talk about keeping and attracting it.
Personally, I still think that students will want to look internationally, but moving back here, especially with how it's growing and how Marbella is developing, I think it will be an interesting place for them to come back to. And, I think we all like to have that element of going back and seeing what opportunities there are there. And if opportunity exists, why wouldn't they?
I think the population of Marbella, you mentioned before, digital nomads and techs, are spending more time here. It's not anymore a season destination. It's a all year round destination. And I think it's transforming into an authentic one.
Marbella is an international city with the warmest climate in continental Europe, which it is. However, we want to be known as educational hub, and which happens to have a good climate, right? So I think if we reach that, then we can say that we succeeded.
Okay, now I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker. I'm going to go a little off script here. Is that okay, Iris? Iris Arbel. I mean, when I talk about that Marbella is a place that people who can go anywhere choose to come here, I'm talking about Iris, okay? She is a successful entrepreneur, former diplomat, active investor, and very accomplished. The top 10 businesswomen in water in China, where she had successfully grown one of the largest water infrastructure companies in China to a very successful exit. And when she was looking where her and her husband and her family would come, I had the privilege of chatting with her about a month ago, they noted that there were 16 international schools here. And she's like, there must be something going on here. And so she moved here. And so we're really grateful for you. She's an instrumental part of the pool and is the chair of the longevity club at the pool. And we were chatting, and back to be careful who you talk to. She's like, Razor, we should make Marbella a blue zone. This should be the world's capital for longevity. And I said, yes, we should do that, right, Iris? I know nothing about longevity either. So without further ado, Iris, come join us on stage.
Well, today I want to be talking about longevity. I also happen to be the chairman of the Pool of Talents, which is a big passion that I share with the pool. There is a famous ancient, I think it's African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. It's a lot of generational wisdom, right, in this proverb. So after working for 1.5 years here at the pool, I can say with utmost confidence, this village or this community that the pool created, I think this is the most incredible and even unique village that we can hope for our kids. So as Razor mentioned, we came here to Marbella in 2012 for 5 months vacation, right? It was 14 years ago, and we stayed. We stayed, as many of you, because the quality of life here is really incredible. At that time, we had little kids, and to raise a family with little children in Marbella, it's a dream, right? Great international schools, a lot of outdoor activities, but kids also happen to grow up, and they become teenagers. And that becomes trickier because teenagers is a totally different product. It has ideas, plans, aspirations, and also a lot of confusion. A lot of confusion nowadays, it's even bigger than during our times because of AI. And they become stressed. Okay, what shall I do in the future? What kind of career I can choose? AI is going to take all the entry jobs. There is also a lot of confusion from social media. They watch these TikToks about getting rich fast with drop shipping or branding, and then they try and send these packages and they understand it's much more complicated and you don't become rich in 2 days, in 3 days. So now, more than ever, we need real life models for our kids. And just, looking at this room and the amount of wisdom, of experience, of positive energy that they can learn from, it's amazing. So the Pool of Talents, how it's all started. It started with 2 frustrated high school students. One of them happened to be also my son, that were looking for internships, meaningful internship. They wanted to go to top universities, and they couldn't find any. So as we teach our kids, you identify the problem, find the solution. So they found the solution, they came to the pool, and were met with a lot of enthusiasm and goodwill, and based on the pool community, the Pool of Talents was born. So what is the goal of the Pool of Talents? The goal of the Pool of Talents is to give our teenagers, our kids, though they study in the most amazing schools here, real life experience outside of the classroom. What do we mean by real life experience? Like me standing now today and talking in front of the people, I wish I had public speaking classes when I was a teenager, right? It would help me a lot. So it's soft skills like public speaking. It's real knowledge about AI, for example. Tracey was talking about the cooperation we have with a British International School. We organized for the students an AI seminar with 5 accomplished entrepreneurs and CEOs that were talking about how AI is going to change their industry and what advice they can give to students. They choose to study finance or maybe go into agriculture, design, arts. The goal is for them to meet role models or inspiration that give them ideas about what path they can take in the future. And we here have in the public sitting, for example, Maziar, that was giving an inspirational talk about his journey, about his leadership. Johannes, that was talking about the future of a design industry. We leverage on your experience and your knowledge to help them to make educated choices in the future. So first of all, I also would like to thank the pool community and Andreas, who was our judge in the MEC competition. This was our flagship event that we organized last month, the Marbella Entrepreneurship Cup. We believe that organizing competitive events are also very important for them. It gives them a chance to practice their grit, their motivation. We see how they thrive in these competitions. So it's not only the MAC, we also organize for them a case study competition about marketing with Instituto de Empresas, or IE, from Madrid. We took them to visit Google offices in Malaga to understand what tools do they need to apply maybe for future job in Google. We would like to take them to more enterprises like this in the future. And before I finish, I would like also to thank our amazing interns. Shay, Alexia, are you here? Our senior intern, Shay, she is the CEO of the Pool of Talent. So if you see her approaching you and asking you to be the part of the Pool of Talents, please say yes. And where is Lexia, our intern? Yeah, you can stand up, yeah. So we have Lexi, talented, motivated interns that want to do more than just being in the classroom at school. They want to have real life experience. They are all the time looking for opportunities for mentorship, for internship, for workshops and events that can expand their real life knowledge. So Maziar, I don't see you, Johannes, Christina, Andreas, I see also Linda. I would like to thank you for what you're doing for us, for supporting our efforts, and more of you would like to join, please. It's a call for action. It takes a village to grow a child, right? So please. Thank you.
Every night, you and I on a roll. Switch it up where I'm going. Stay on the fly, just in time, know the right way to go. I'm on the road, it's my time, taking control of my life. I want to run
Okay, so it's Friday evening. You're thinking about your weekend plans, maybe a date night, maybe a movie, right? The new Michael movie's out, Devil Wears Prada 2. But instead, you're going to watch Costa del Tech, right? Debuted here 1 month ago, trending on Twitter. Let's play a little clip from that movie.
How did you end up here? But yeah, we're all here.
Was not so beautiful 25 years ago.
We go to London and we go to Paris and New York. Oh, we're from Marbella. What? Marbella? How is that possible?
I see more people in general coming to Malaga. This is almost like the Silicon Valley.
Probably the most unexpected technological hub of Europe.
We have the idea of expansion, and Malaga is one of the areas that we're looking into.
We can make it a really beautiful place.
It is great that now we do have a place where you can put European talent and we can make this bigger and we can advance as fast as US is doing.
You get really high quality of life.
When places grow very fast, that tends to be the bottleneck.
If you want, you can study here and you can stay here. I didn't have that chance.
This is what changed everything.
Wow, 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 wow. Hey, so I got the last remarks. So we'll get drinks in just 60 seconds. My name is Martin, and I guess I just want to tell a little story about the first, who was here for the first meetup? I know one guy that was, and that's Andreas in the center. Stand up, because you deserve mad credit. I know you're a little bit shy, but at least give him a round of applause. So Andreas is humble man, but he's got one of the biggest startup portfolios in Europe. So go pitch him if you got an idea. But anyway, I moved here 7 years ago. There was tons of entrepreneurs before the pandemic, but there was no place to hang out. So the first thing we did was that I hosted a Marbella Tech meetup. It was basically just free drinks, and I think we had 40 people, I don't know, something like that. So it's like, oh wow, there's a crowd here. Anyway, fast forward, I think like the third or something, we actually hosted the third one at MIUC. Where are you? MIUC. So that was the third one, and Juan Urdiales, if you know Job and Talent, unicorn founder who lives and runs Job and Talent from Marbella, we were all like, right after the pandemic, he's like, okay, we need to change this whole narrative. Stop being ashamed of working from Marbella. Be proud of it. Show the fucking palm trees behind you. Brag about it. This is a unique selling point. And he was so ahead of his time. And now fast forward to today, and what is everyone talking about? Vibe coding. Do you all know it? Hands up, vibe coding. Who knows it? All right, so Replit, Lovable. These are all companies where you just write a sentence, build me an app or whatever. It'll build you an app. You don't have to be a developer. So I think back then, I don't know who coined it, but somebody said, okay, let's build unicorns from paradise. It's like, oh, you're crazy. That's absolutely insane. Who would want to do that from Marbella? It's not possible. There's no talent. There's no nothing. And now, fast forward to today, and I get goosebumps just listening to Razor and hearing like all the schools and everything that's happening and pool of talents, everything. So yes, I think our little village is growing up and we can build unicorns from paradise. So with that, thank you for coming. Razor, Chris, come up for an applause and then we'll go for drinks. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you.
Done? Bars open?
Bars open.